Hey guys, Tommy Carrigan here with Tommy Untamed. Thanks for tuning in. We got an awesome guest today. You're going to enjoy it. You sit up straight. I always slip back and I'm like, it's very. But then another part of me is like, no, I worked hard to build my own business and be my own boss. I'm allowed to sit back. But then there's still
Well,
there's like the Irish Catholic, private Catholic school upbringing that's still like, stand up straight, sit up straight. And it's
well,
like,
hey, here's a little bit of behind the scenes that will be exposed here today. My mom says when I say, "Hey, I'm going to be on Tommy's podcast," she said, "Now is that the guy that's always slouching and
oh
looking like he's not
no,
listening?"
no. Did she actually say that?
Yeah,
Oh,
my 72-year-old mother
not mother
apparently
your mom,
watched.
not your mom. That's at me. No, no. God bless your mother. No, it's no, my
No,
mom.
I think she watched one of your podcasts where you interviewed Jen, and she was like, "He looked like he wasn't even listening." I'm like, "No,
No,
Mom, he's listening. He doesn't.
no.
You don't have to look like you're listening as
I'm
long as you're listening."
I'm so. It took me a while to figure that out. I mean, in college, I found if I wasn't sitting up straight, then I wouldn't retain what I was studying. But I found more with the podcast is it's hard enough to be on. Like as natural as the conversations are, they're not.
Yeah,
You, it is still a show. You still have to like watch out
right.
for dead air, blah blah blah. And I found
Yeah,
that enough is like requires enough mental energy that I mean, if you're doing this the whole time, I mean, I think I did it with like I've done it with like generals before. I feel like that's maybe kind of like and with Charlie Duke. Charlie Duke's almost 90. He's an Apollo astronaut. There's a certain
right.
level of him like you should probably sit up straight, put on a collar
Yeah, yeah,
shirt, you know.
yeah.
But other than that, I think it probably took me like 1,000 episodes to realize like, yeah, no, I'm so much more zoned in if I'm just sitting. I mean, I'm awake. I always get
Relaxed.
sleep. I always go to the gym. I'm caffeinated. I always meditate. I clear my mind. I find I absorb it better if I'm doing more like this. And also,
Well, of
it's
course.
also I'm allowed to. But you've been
That's
here
the
for you. Yeah.
that's the beauty of the podcast platform, right? I
Well,
mean, look
yeah.
at the success of your Joe Rogans and things like that. I mean, it is laid back. It's long form. It's easier to tell when someone's lying when they're in a natural environment than if you were to go on Fox News and you have a 7 minute pre-programmed, this is what we're going to ask you, this is right.
Today we're talking about the
Anyone can,
bombing in Syria. Yeah, and
yeah,
it's
yeah,
so
anybody
unnatural.
can act like they're telling the truth for a short amount of time. It's very hard to continually convince people that you're not full of shit when you're in a more relaxed, natural environment, right? Which is why I look at Project Veritas. What do they do? And this
Yeah.
is what we do when we recruit assets, when we work people and things like that. We try to get them in their most relaxed form, usually at a bar or something like that, because that's when you're going to be able to get them to open up and loosen up. So that's just human nature. So
Yeah, and it is. Yeah, and also, I mean, you get. I know these are all like these aren't new ideas, but everything. But that's originally why I started listening to Rogan. Was I discovered him or my friend sent him to me. It was December 2011, and I was studying organic chemistry, and we knew him as the Fear Factor guy. And he was like,
right,
"Hey, the Fear Factor guy." He's like, it sounds like the conversations we would have, in high school when we get high and just, talk about the universe. I'd be like, oh, yeah. And I just started, I didn't even know it was a podcast. I just found these clips. I just thought it was him talking on like the radio
right,
for like a
right,
year before I
yeah,
found out he had a podcast. I was like, oh, cool. But that's the thing that always got me was like, because in college I was so buttoned up. I was such like a Boy Scout, Captain America, like I went to the University of Georgia, but I was getting up at like 5 a.m., working out, cold shower, studying, like never drank. And I just kind of conflated like anything that wasn't serious like that was a waste of time or it was debauchery or degeneracy or laziness. And listening to Rogan, I mean, like as I would listen to him, it'd be serious. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of identify with that, like, disciplined person. But then it would also be so relaxed that it actually kind of opened up my mind to be like, oh, there is a duality. Like you don't have to be, like marine at attention at all times, and that's kind of led more
well,
and more to how the show is like I'm here mentally. I'm here like 1,000%, and to me, I'm like the rest is whatever. The camera angle,
right,
like what the you
yeah.
mean? You mean you can see me, you can hear me, like it's fine.
Yeah, yeah. No, but I just wanted to give you that a little bit of
That's
behind the
awesome.
scenes. But no, I mean, look, I think Joe Rogan's technique, no matter what you think about him, right? You can think that he's controlled opposition, you can think that he's not real or whatever. That doesn't matter. I mean, it's the way he does his show gets people like Cash Patel to reveal that they're full of shit,
Yeah,
right? And everyone watching can see it for their eyes, right in front of their eyes, and then they can like, and it just goes on, right? It's not like a short, wait a minute, did he say that? No, no, no. He drags it out. It's
yeah,
long form. You get them to it's just like when I recorded the agents attempting to recruit me, right?
yeah,
It's 20 minutes long, and through that 20 minutes, I got them to do things that they may or may not intended to have done, which does not help them, right? It made them look bad. It proved my point after the fact, right? Because I can now say, see, look at I asked them about the tweets that they're supposedly investigating, right? And they say they didn't bring them, and then 5 minutes later, I ask them again, and then they do show me one that isn't related to what they were claiming it was related to at all, right? So they didn't realize that they were being handled because they're just not very good at it. And so when well, we'll call him a broadcast professional, right? Because he has a excellent format and he's good at what he does. He can say things like, "Yeah, wow, hey, so did you ever hear about this guy?" And then when Cash Patel's like, no, no, I'm not aware of that. He's like, "Oh yeah," and then his people bring it all up, like, "You should totally know about this. You're the director of the
yeah.
FBI," as if it's just like, "Yeah, hey man," and this is one of the human intelligence techniques of putting someone at ease, making them comfortable. We're all friends here. I'm not critical of you, but hey, did you know that there's this thing, right? So, I mean,
No,
it's
he's
very damaging when it doesn't go well for them.
yeah, no, he's brilliant at it. And the thing is like, and is I mean, because like, and he also doesn't like attack people. Like again, I know it's not like an original thought to say it's bullshit that Kamala didn't go on, but anyone that's ever actually like listened to her, and again, you don't have to like him, whatever. You know damn well he wasn't gonna sit there and do some interrogation. He would have asked, he would ask them like, what do you know, what's it like being in the Air Force One? Like he wouldn't attack them. He wouldn't go to war with her. And the fact that she didn't show up shows you like, oh, you're not okay with sitting there for 3 hours because I think it's the Winnie the Pooh quote. If you tell the truth, you don't need to remember anything. And
Exactly.
like, dude, if
I
you
don't know
get
who said it, but it's true.
if you have to start covering up lies, like, dude, that's why well, it's also just how I was raised, but that's why I don't do that and just kind of speak my mind because you can't maintain that facade eternally. And I mean, he also does it in a very good way. He doesn't, people always ask, how come he hasn't attacked this person? Well, first of all, that's a really quick way to get people to not come on your show. I get that
Right.
all the time. People are like, "How come you didn't grill this guy on this?" I'm like, "Because I wanted him on my show, and I want him on the show again, and I want other people on the show. You can't you can't eviscerate all of your guests and then go to a new potential guest with like flowers. They're gonna be like, "Oh, this guy stabs people in the back," and it's in general, and I've always kind of looked at it. I mean, I looked at it in I moved around a lot as a kid, and it's how I made there's something more anxiety inducing than being like 10 and being at a new school. But I had to do that like several times, and in high school and in college, and like one of the ways, and then working as like a bouncer at a bar in college, like a very quick way I found is like it doesn't mean be a pushover. It doesn't mean don't have values and don't have standards. That's all fine internally. And for super egregious stuff like pedophilia, you do have to draw a line externally. But a lot of things is like there's two ways to go about really every conversation, and it's what you just said, and it's what I say on the show all the time is like, how do you, if you really wanted to get information out of a person, be it an asset or just be it a author who wrote a book about World War I, how do you want to get information out of them? Do you want to interrogate them in a room with a bright light, or do you want a wire? If you wear a wire, you're going to get them much more often, and that's how I go about the show. Is It's like I can sit here and be like, "Why were you doing this? Why were you doing this?" It's a very quick way to stop getting guests. That's a very quick way to have that person not come back on the show. Or you can just genuinely go into it with an open mind and a relaxed thing and just see which way it naturally flows. But nobody wants that because most of them are retarded and simply want to be told what they already agree with. And that kind of loops into what you and I were texting about beforehand is the people, and I said this before to some friends, and I've said it in the last couple days on the show. There's a lot of things in the world that I have understanding and malleability with. I'm 34. I have a biology degree. I understand that I don't understand the nature of geopolitical conflict and allies and trade lines. I get the gray area of civilian deaths and war and World War II is every other day accidentally bomb the wrong town. I get that. I also get that every person has vices. Eisenhower and Patton were both womanizing. They both cheated on their wife. I get it. Doesn't make it right. Doesn't mean I want them dating my mom. But I get that we're all humans, right? I get that. And I get that, it's very easy for me to sit back, 80 years later and say how they should have gone about D-Day. I get that I don't know and that it is a lot of gray area and there are bad actors and there's also a lot of people trying to just do the right thing in a shitty situation. What I cannot in any way, shape, or form excuse is kids and or covering it up. And
Right.
and I think that's where you and I kind of first started to become friends. And like the first show was like because we were both questioning Trump and like, is he in on it? Was January 6th in on it? And you say it to anyone else who likes Trump, and they're like, "Oh, what are you, a liberal?" And it's like, no, you're supposed to question everything. And there is a frightening amount of people that are like, Trump said to drop Epstein, so we're just gonna drop it.
Yeah.
No,
Well, right, but there's an equally massive amount and much more than I even expected that aren't doing that, right? I mean, and look, there's a thousand different ways that Trump should have lost your support. Okay, we can look at COVID, we can look at his history, whatever, right? Um, I would have never thought that of all the things, right? Like that the Jeffrey Epstein thing, because that seems like it would have been the easiest one to navigate around spin wise, right? I mean, you could have taken the angle of, lightly addressing it or stringing people along, right? I mean, look, Trump said himself that he could stand outside in the street
and
and
shoot
and
someone on
shoot
Fifth Ave.
somebody and nobody would stop following him. And he knows this, right? I mean, so I would have never thought that if he would have just kept kicking the Epstein. I mean, this is what we do about everything, right? We've kicked JFK down the road for what, a million years now. I mean, if we just keep kicking narratives that have been accepted by the people, right? Like your 9/11s, your Pearl Harbors, or,
Sure.
or all of these things that aren't even in the front of people's mind, right? Then just keep kicking the can down the road. That's what they've always done, right? I mean, the idea that our government is corrupt and that it kills people all around the world and that they lie, they cheat, they steal, that they have sex with little boys and little girls, like this is not a new concept, okay? And yet we've endured it for years and years. I mean, America has been communist for a very long time, and I've got some points that I'll read off to confirm that that are pulled from the Communist Manifesto, right? And ask yourself, is this the America you live in today? And of course, if you're telling yourself the truth, the answer will be yes. And then surprise, guess where that's from, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's like reading from the satanic Bible. Hey, do you agree with this? Yes. If they don't know the source, then they're giving you an honest answer, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it could have been very easy to just keep stringing everybody along, right? We were all told that he would put Hillary Clinton in jail, and then he said, "Oh, well, Hillary's been through enough." Really? I mean, really? I mean, you want to know who's been through enough? How about J Sixers, which we conveniently don't ever talk about anymore ever again, even though most of them are still considered felons, right? All because of you, Mr. Trump. You are who they showed up to support, right? I mean, if Mark Meadows called for a January 6th rally to argue about the election fraud, no one would have showed up because they didn't show up for this concept, they showed up because you asked them to show up. And then when they showed up to your party that you threw, um, the cops showed up and threw them all in jail and left you at home to clean up your mansion. And you didn't do very much to help them, right? And even to this day, the only thing that has been done for J6ers is, well, we'll let you out of jail, right? I mean, okay, well, I should have never been in jail to begin with. Okay, that's not enough, right? And so it really has gotten, and so all of these things, like the whole J6 issue, like people should be more furious about that. They should be more furious about COVID. I mean, I've talked to people that have multiple family members now dealing with turbo cancers
Mm-hmm.
that took the vax. I've had supporters that their significant others or family members have died, right? So how many people have someone dead in their family because of the handling of COVID? We'll just use that broad-based term, right? The handling of COVID.
Sure.
We won't zero in on the vaccine. We won't zero in on the cover up of where it came from or who was responsible for it. Just the handling of COVID. How many people have had people in their family, their loved ones that have died, that have been maimed, or that are about to die because of some miraculous unnatural spike in cancers that no one's even heard of before, right? And so I thought certainly that would be maybe something more likely to bring them down. But the idea that the Jeffrey Epstein conspiracy theory, right? I mean, who even knew that this many people even knew about Jeffrey Epstein? This shirt that I wore, that's hanging up today, I wore to get my hair cut today, right? 3 people commented on it. It's the most in a short amount of time that anyone has ever commented on it. Now, my Abolish the FBI t-shirt always gets a lot of comments, some of them good, some of them bad. But that shirt right there, 3 people in just getting out of my car, walking into the hair cuttery and walking back to my car and coming to home, 3 people commented on my shirt. And my response to them, they would say, hey, nice shirt. And I'd say, well, it's true. And all 3 of them agreed. I would have never in a million years thought that this many people were attuned to who Jeffrey Epstein is, what Jeffrey Epstein did, and now what is going on, and the backlash that clearly is not going away, no matter how much conservative ink, and I've been tracking it and monitoring it. Why? Because it is dangerous, like you said, it is dangerous to say to we'll call a cult of personality hero, right? It is dangerous to say, well, why did this happen? Then why did this happen, right? Because they will instantly turn on you. But oddly, that hasn't worked in this case. And I've got just diehard Trump supporters that have, Trump matted photos with things hanging in their houses going, uh, that's it, we're screwed, right? I mean, I've had some supporters that just still they don't want to believe, right? You know, the old saying is don't ever meet your heroes, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
you'll be disappointed. Like I've had some very strong supporters that still are they're in denial. But like you said, there is a line that you should not allow yourself to cross. And that is just like, look, a perfect example, right? I mean, we're watching The Shield, right? Which is a show that I watched years ago and I found it and it's free. So it's entertaining and it's very much like being an SF guy, just without the all the evil actions, right? But there's lines that they cross, right? And that's part of the drama of the show, right? Like what is the protagonist going to do, right? What is the antagonist going to do, right? Like how are they going to handle this moral dilemma, right? And there's just lines that should never be allowed to be crossed, and one of them is the hurting of children in sexual ways, the murdering of them. I mean, look, we have a planet where, depending on what numbers you read, I mean, if you just listen to the commercials for the charities, right? I mean, and multiply, 2,000 kids a day go missing. Okay, well, let's multiply 2,000 times 365.
730.
Uh, right? That's 730,000 people in America alone, which only makes up 4% of the world's population. Okay. So I've seen numbers as high as 8 million children a year go missing. Well, where the hell are they going? Right? Are we really not able to keep a hold of our children on the planet, right? I mean, if you think about these numbers, they become really circumstantial evidence of the problem, of the claims that the currency of this global, demonic, psychopathic world government is blackmail. And they get this blackmail by doing something that is so abhorrent that no matter how much you don't give a what people think about you, that one thing they do. And I just heard somebody recounting the story of Cheryl Atkinson, right? And how the FBI admitted to trying to plant child pornography on her husband's computer, right? And she testified to this in front of Congress, right? And so it is such an abhorrent thing that they use it in order to get whatever they want. And for anybody denying the fact, like we look, Mike Benz has said some, yeah, I guess nice things about me. I've seen some things where he's like, oh, they should look into the Jeremy Brown case, right? He's never spoken to me directly, right? But for him to go on a show and say, oh, I've never seen any evidence of Jeffrey Epstein being involved in a blackmail ring. Well, do you not know what the definition of blackmail is? I mean, like this is insane, Tommy, and people aren't buying it, right? And they shouldn't buy it, and they should not accept it, and they should not let it go because every excuse that's being made by conservative meek, whether it's your favorite person or the guy that you've always known was controlled opposition all along, right? They're falling all over themselves to try to explain it in a way that doesn't look like what it clearly looks like, which is that a child sex trafficking ring that was used to blackmail global leaders and powerful people in all levels of industry is being covered up. And that is the only logical and sane explanation for all the things that we're doing. And, we shouldn't stand for it. And I won't stand for it.
So, in terms of being surprised that this is the thing that got MAGA people to turn on Trump, I'm not surprised at all, and I'll explain that in a second. But what you just said is, and this is what I've asked myself, and this is kind of where I've drawn my conclusion, is pretend it's not Trump, pretend it's Biden still in office, or Kamala, or pretend it's somebody from the right wing, Vivek, or even someone that you might even like more, JD Vance or whoever. Just pick your conservative guy that you're okay with him being in, and it's not Trump. That person comes out, and we know everything that Epstein's been in the popular culture for 6 years now. That person comes out and says, regardless of the promises they made about how we're going to release it, and regardless of all that, they come out and say, so we've researched it, and he did kill himself, and there's no client list. 10 out of 10 times, you look at that person, and you go, oh, he's on the list. You go, he's on the list. That's a. I shouldn't have voted for Bob Smith. I liked him and I liked his policies, but I mean, what is that? You look at your wife, you're like, honey, what is that? That's a pedophile. Yeah. Or best case scenario for that person, he's covering up his friends. Right. Maybe he's not involved.
That is the best case.
Okay. Why is it different with Donald Trump? And I say this as somebody who's voted for him twice. I say this as somebody who was at January 6th and recorded it. I say this as somebody who's gone through a lot of shit and received a lot of shit on this podcast. No one can approach that. And I now the counter argument I've heard, and I will admit it holds some weight, is that everything they did to try to take him down, steal an election, COVID, summer 2020, all of the 34 felonies, those are all things on an escalation ladder. In between 34 felonies and trying to shoot him would be, it's a big thing to try to blow his head off. That's the only counter argument I've heard, which, just being totally honest, I'd say, yeah, that's fair. You would probably release those files before you shot him. I don't personally believe that because I think it's a cop-out. Now, what you said about, all the things that people, could have stopped liking him for me personally, in my short life and whatever short quote-unquote wisdom or experience I have, just read. I love the Cold War. I love reading about all of it. The amount of things that happened in there regardless of your political views, you do see that a lot of times, like, shit just happens. Or if it's not just happened, you go, oh man, Eisenhower really was cheating on his wife, who was just loyal to him to the end. And be like, man, that. And then so is Patton. Then it's also like, yeah, but it's also like, it's a General Patton. Like, what are you going to do? You're going to throw out everyone on your team? And I look at that and I go, I can see my own flaws. And I'm not ready to throw a rock at someone else. Doesn't mean I approve of it. But there's a lot of, I mean, again, like, I think it was like D-Day, like the cloud cover, like it up one of the bombing sorties, and they just like legitimately just demolished, vaporized the town, like 1,500 people. And it was supposed to be the German pillboxes. Yeah, I get that. And it's also World War II where there's 85 million people. Like, I get it, and I get that it's, and even COVID, I look at that and I'm not a fan of that at all. And I go, let's say it's not Trump. Let's say Trump really is the president that uses to take him down. Like, what do you mean? What do you realistically do in that? You're like, I don't know. Sign off on the vaccine? I don't know. I'm with you. That is something that you should attack him on. But for me personally, I look at all of this and I go, nothing is perfect. Just nothing is perfect. I mean, I didn't vote for Biden, but he did the CHIPS Act. And there are a lot of people that are like, nothing Biden did was good. I'm like, that's an objectively good thing. He brought back the super small semiconductor manufacturing here. People go, no, Trump did nothing good. Trump was also the first president that made it a felony in 50 states to torture animals. Nothing Obama did was good. Obama's the president that made it so the government paid for the flights for the parents to come receive the remains at Dover. Before that, you had to cover it. Those are little tiny things where you can go, okay, that was everything else was, but okay. And if you can't admit that that's good, that it's good that it's a felony in 50 states to torture animals, or that it's good that, yeah, maybe grieving families shouldn't have to pay for their airplane ticket to go pick up the remains of their son or daughter. If you can't look at that, then that tells me that you're not you, but that tells me that you're not someone who can have any honest debate, because those are things that are objectively good. And if you can't even admit that, then I go, oh, you're never going to admit anything. So what's the point of arguing? This is something where I go, even the most hardened, cynical person, where you'd be like, yeah, listen, I mean, yeah, it's not good that he's thrice married and lives in a gold penthouse and grab him by the pussy. And like, yeah, no, I'm not for those things, blah, blah, blah. There has to be a line that you go, no, absolutely not. And you have to be honest with yourself. Pick whoever the you hate the most. If AOC is in office and she goes, Jeffrey Epstein killed himself and there's no client list, what is your response? And to look, and then furthermore, so you go, well, then, and why is the handling of it so bad? To me, that further indicates that Trump is involved. Not only is he not allowed to display it, but the person with the video of him, a kid, goes, yeah, I would not mind fracturing that MAGA base in half. You are not to kick it down the road like we do with North Korea, or we do with JFK, or we do with 9/11. You are not to kick it down the road. Actually, I want you to come out in the most embarrassing way possible and say nothing happened. And then a couple days later, I want you to come out and say anyone who still believes in Epstein is a former. That's something I would do if I had the ace on someone I didn't like. And I would go, that MAGA base is that's a big problem. We don't like it when everyone's unified. The left is kind of shattered right now. What could we do to drive a wedge through this? Yeah, I want you to come out and say, if you still talk about this, you're a nut job. That's what I would do if I had a video of someone I don't like in a movement I don't like, and I had them on video of a toddler. Not a drone strike that went bad where there's civilian deaths, and I get it and it sucks, but it's also, that's war. No, I want something that cannot be spun at all. Not 17 years old. Get him with I'm a 10-year-old. And maybe it's not Trump. Maybe let's just benefit of the doubt, devil's advocate, whatever. Maybe it's not, but it's what everyone else. It's Hegseth and Vance and whatever. Not to slander everybody. This is how my show gets shut down. But something like that, I'd go, yeah, that's what I would do. And and I pray to God, I legitimately pray to God that that comes out, and maybe Trump does it. Maybe he pulls off the magic trick, and in a week we go, wow, man, he played us perfectly, and he got the Democrats to demand it released. Okay, I'm willing to have some fun and play 4D chess with different things like, Ukraine funding or why Israel seemingly has us by the balls. I cannot, I cannot in any way, shape, or form. For instance, this show, I know I'm rambling, this show got banned from YouTube and iTunes and Twitter and Reddit and Facebook and all that shit because I interviewed all the doctors involved with creating the COVID vaccine who didn't even
Right.
say anything incendiary on the show. They said if you're older, you might want to get it, but if you're younger, you probably shouldn't. I had them on multiple times to the point where I got banned from platforms before they ever went on Rogan, and then they became his first and second most downloaded episodes ever, Dr. Peter McCullough and Dr. Robert Malone. I have no problem with sitting here and going, this is wrong. I never once told anyone on this show, I never once told an adult to not get the shot. I said, I think it's probably a really bad option and I think it's going to kill you, but you're an adult. Go do what you want. The thing I couldn't get through, and when I would sit there kind of quietly in my own mind and be like, if I do this show, I'm going to get banned from YouTube. But the thing that I couldn't, in the quiet of my own mind, look God in the face and be okay with is like, what about all those 8-month-olds who are having heart attacks? Like, dude, I don't. If I can't stand my ground on that and not be threatened with death, just be threatened with a YouTube strike, then how in the am I going to stand there in the afterlife and look God in the face and ask him for mercy? So my point is this, and this isn't some pat myself on the back, but rather I think it's a common ground that most humans, people with souls, agree on. We're all up and we all kind of have what's coming to us. Everyone that's ever cheated or stolen, and we've all done it. You drove and you got away with that DWI, but man, you probably should be in jail. All those things. The one thing we can look at is like, leave kids alone, man. I'm not, and I'm going to say it specifically, let the kids grow up and their lives up, like, and then they're adults like us. If you can't draw the line at that, uh, nothing. It's not a movement that can be taught. I don't want to hear another word about tariffs or the defense budget or going to Mars or crypto. I don't want anything. I do not want to be part of a country and a global hegemony that exists with the of children. I don't. Well, that means the world will fall. Let it fall in hellfire. We deserve it. So,
Well,
sorry
I
for
mean,
that rant.
Hey there! Are you tired of skyrocketing subscription costs? With Q Broadcast, you get an entertainment package that is unmatched by other providers, with all your favorite content in one affordable bundle. Enjoy a 15-day trial for just $14.99. And if you refer 3 friends and they stick around, your subscription is free. Say goodbye to high-priced subscriptions, contracts, and hassles, and say hello to streaming simplicity with Q Broadcast. This changes everything.
Heaven's Harvest Prepper Food. 72 servings per pail, 25 years shelf life. I've had the owner Clayton on the show before. He's a God-fearing, America-loving patriot. Get one of these, get a couple of them, throw them in your basement. It's good to have it, not need it, than to need it and not have it. If you don't want to do that, you can get their seeds. You can plant your own garden, so you don't even have to keep buying them. You can just get the goods and start your own, or you can even get freeze-dried fruits and vegetables like bananas, apples, strawberries, and raspberries. They support the show. It's an honest product. It's a good safety measure to have, and they keep my show free for you. So I'd implore you guys to please go to heavensharvest.com, use the link in the description, promo code TPC. Axios Fitness Coaching is a premium resource for holistic strength and conditioning services. Axios is best known for the Training Club, capital T, capital C, an exclusive community that prioritizes accountability, technique, diet, and nutrition. Everything you need to do to take action against the decay of the modern world. Whether you're looking to improve your physique, build strength, or just take care of your health and fitness, Axios will provide you with the solution that is effective and simple to execute. All you need to do is complete the intake survey, and you can see if you're a good candidate for the training club or any other of the services. And it's going to sponsor the show. So, one company falls off, another one arises. So if you guys like the show, you want to work out, throw the show a couple shekels. Go take the survey. Thank you so much, guys.
Higher ultraviolet exposure is associated with lower mortality. The United Kingdom is a high latitude and low sunlight country. Researchers there collected data on over 360,000 participants in a study of UV exposure via solarium use. When compared with non-users, solarium users had 15% risk lowered of all-cause mortality, 23% lower risk of cardiovascular mortality, 14% lower risk of cancer mortality, and a 12% lower risk of non-cardiovascular, non-cancer mortality. In other words, all other causes. Quoting the researchers, our study adds to the growing evidence that the benefits of UV exposure outweigh the risks in low sunlight environments. A link to the original publication is available in the box below the video. Get some UV light this winter. Immerse yourself in the tranquility of the blue. Visit a Blue Room soon. www.blueroom.com.
You made some points, and I'll probably address them out of order because I wrote them down out of order.
Don't even worry. Don't.
No, you're absolutely right. Look, here's the reality, ladies and gentlemen. You were born into this world without a requirement for government. Okay, if you were to be born in the woods, right, and raised by wolves, you would not know a damn thing about government until some bureaucrat found you in the woods and told you how much you need government.
Those are endangered wolves, first of all. Sir. Those are endangered wolves.
Yeah, or Bigfoot. Okay, yeah. We know Bigfoot, right, isn't real because they don't try to censor anything about Bigfoot. Okay, so which addresses the whole censorship issue, right? When they censor you, it's because they don't want you talking about the topic, right? There's no other reason to censor you except to keep you from stimulating the thought process of anyone who will listen to you. They don't go around and censor homeless guys who hold up signs saying the end is near because they don't think anyone's listening to the homeless guy. But if you come on here and have 1 million people listening to you saying that the end is near, then you're going to get censored, right? Because they don't want your 1 million people to hear that and go, yeah, wait a minute. They don't want you asking why, okay? Now, the flip side is they do want you trying to solve the crime, right? And this is where controlled opposition, this comes in where the trauma-based mind control works, right? This comes into disinformation and information seeding, signal reduction, military deception operations, right? They love when we sit here and try to figure out what page of Jeffrey Epstein's book Trump is on, right? They love that, right? Because then they can say they're just conspiracy theorists because you may be close to the truth, you may not be close to the truth. And the best lies are 95% true. Yep. Okay.
Yep.
They can tell you all the truth that you want and then seed just a little tiny bit of lie, and then you will run off into a rabbit hole. That is not what you should do, right? But what you definitely should do is say, why? Why are you lying to me? Okay. And why are you saying these things? And why are you not addressing these things, right? You don't have to figure it out, right? But once someone from the government lies, right, then you have to ask yourself, why are they lying to me? And if it's about any topic, you should say, why are they lying to me about this topic, right? Because if there's nothing nefarious to see here, well, then just tell us the truth, right? So, all right.
You don't have to address. Don't try to address all the points. I want to
address them
because all right, go for it. Yeah.
Look, one of the top things that look, I understand. Okay, look, I spent 20 years in special operations, right? I tell people this all the time. We work with bad guys to get to the worst guys, right? Yeah. We do things that the average Sunday school attendee would not do, okay? Correct. Why? Because war is hell, right? Yes, and only the dead know the end of war, right?
Why we fund, that's why we funded the Mujahideen.
There's a million different war things, right?
Yes.
War is ugly, and like you said, sometimes 1,500 people get blown up. It's why war is bad and should be avoided at all costs, right? And when fought should be fought to win decisively and quickly, right? Not drag on for 20 years because that $1,500 person accident will happen over and over and over again over the span of 20 years will only happen a few times in the span of 6 months, okay? But we have to keep in mind, right, that we live in a world of deception, okay? And the best way to deceive somebody is make them think that you're on their side, to tell them the 95% truth so that you gain credibility and then feed them the 5% lie. So this idea, and I agree with you, acknowledge things that are good, okay? That's fine, all right? But at the end of the day, and I'll use a military example. If I've got my star asset, right? This guy has been working with U.S. Special Forces for 20 years, okay? He was recruited as a young 20-something in college and has been working to further the goals of the intelligence community at all levels, the tactical, the operational, the strategic level. We just, I mean, like, hey, when we need something done, we're like, go ask this guy, right? He'll get us what we need to know. And mission after mission, jackpot after jackpot, right? We've used this guy. But then on the last mission, he leads us into an ambush and gets half my team killed, all right? He's bad,
Yeah,
right?
shoot him in
It
the head.
doesn't matter all the good things that he does. It doesn't matter if he brought me some Afghan liquor that he smuggled in through Pakistan to share with me on American Thanksgiving Day. Okay, none of that matters, right? All the good things are just a cover for the really, really bad thing. Okay,
Or devil's sorry to interrupt, or devil's advocate, even if he's under duress, maybe he's not really a bad guy. Hey, no, it doesn't matter. It's still
right.
you're still
And
a
see,
cancer. You got to go.
this is how blackmail works, right? Which goes to another excuse, right? So the first excuse is, yeah, but what about all these good things, right? Oh, he couldn't have done all these good things if he's bad. Well, no, that's not true, right? That's the number one, the best lie is 95% truth, right? So all right, the best bad is 95% good. You can use that analogy, right? It doesn't matter if they do a million things that are good. If the one thing leads you to death, right? Well, then ultimately that's a bad thing, right? The other thing is, and this is clearly people that do not understand this world of deception, do not understand this world of evil, and do not understand how this game is played, right? The claim that, well, if they had something, they would have used it by now. We know this is not true simply because Cindy McCain was caught at a speaking engagement stating, we all knew about Jeffrey Epstein, but what could we do, right? So blackmail works by not sharing it, right? I mean, once it's shared, that's the
yeah,
ultimate destruction, right?
yeah. What's the point of a secret?
So the idea that, well, if Trump or whoever, let's not even make it about Trump. If anyone who is being blackmailed is being blackmailed, they're not going to expose that until that person no longer is useful for what the reason they were being blackmailed for. Okay. Another thing, being involved in blackmail rings does not mean that you necessarily engage in the very thing that the blackmail ring, its main currency, right? No one is saying that you have to, if you were involved with Epstein, then you must have raped 8-year-old boys, right? On Epstein Island and killed them.
Could have just been to the
That
island. Yeah, that doesn't look great.
it could have been knowing about the fact that there were 8-year-old boys. It could have been signing off on the search warrant, but then allowing yourself not to collect up the videotapes, or collecting the videotapes and then throwing them in the incinerator, or any involvement.
Watergate. What did he know, and when
Even
did he know it?
right, even the statement of I don't want to know anything about that. Right, that is involvement.
It absolutely is.
And that's the best case. And even that case is 100% bad. Okay.
Correct.
So all of these arguments of, well, it couldn't have been, are all the exact ways things are done, right? If I've got an asset inside the Iranian nuclear program, the first day on the job, he's not exposing all the nuclear secrets, right? If I've got an asset inside the Sinaloa drug cartel, he doesn't show up on the first day of insertion and start ratting on people, okay? That's not how it works, okay? In fact, when in jail, I was told about some operation. It was one of the most famous infiltrations of a black drug running gang, and the guy apparently grew up with the family that was targeted. I can't remember their names, but I was being told this by an actual drug dealer who was part of this whole thing, and I guess they made a documentary about it or whatever, right? And the reason it was so successful was because he was their childhood friend. He was the
Yeah.
godfather for their children, but he was also a federal agent and was inside this family for, I think, over a decade before bringing them down. Now, of course, the only reason they got brought down is probably because they stopped doing what the feds wanted them to do, right? Because
Well,
we
sure.
all know that throughout history, I mean, just look at Iran
It's easier.
Contra,
Yeah, it's
right? I
easier
mean,
to run them. Yeah.
the intelligence agency runs the same things that all the criminals that are locked up at the lower level in prison run: drugs, guns, sex, and blackmail, right? I mean, this is the currency of these demons and psychopaths that run our world, right? And so all of these bullshit excuses that we make when we can clearly see with our eyes that Donald Trump is not reacting. Look, we've seen Donald Trump for 50 years, right? I mean, Donald, look,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
grew
Yeah.
up as a
Yeah.
kid, a huge Donald Trump fan. I own books by Donald Trump. I
Yeah,
wanted
he's
to
been in the spotlight forever. Yeah.
as a kid, I wanted my mom to go to Atlantic City with her boyfriend so she could meet Donald Trump and marry him so he could be my dad. Okay.
Obama said in his college thesis that Donald Trump is the American dream. Yeah, he's a larger than life figure.
Right. So when he ran in 2016, I thought, wow, I bought into the non-politician thing, right? Uh, and yeah, I ran for U.S. Congress as a MAGA Republican. Okay. But here's the bottom line is that you can only slap me in the face and tell me to stop hitting myself so many times before I start to realize that you're feeding me a bunch of bullshit, okay? And I cannot get out of my analytical mindset, right? I view everybody as in all three categories. They're either good, they're either bad, or I don't know yet, right? And I judge everything by if they're bad, then this is how they should act. If they're good, then this is how they should act. And then here's some things that we can, oh, well, that's good, or it could be bad, or whatever, right? These are the I don't knows, right? This is the way that we think as special operators. This is the way we plan. This is the way we've trained, right? I mean, because why? Because we don't want to die, right? I mean, like, we don't want to die. If a conventional commander tells a special forces ODA to go on a mission, hey, we need you to go on this mission, of which they're not even in our chain of command. I'm just giving you an example, right? But if they say, hey, go on this mission, and we say, no, the intel doesn't support that, or no, that guy's actually working with us, or no, that's too dangerous because of our assessment, well, then we're not going to do it, right? Because we analyze, right? And we don't just say, hey, this guy came in and said he wants to help the Americans, so therefore we're just going to trust him hands down. No, we always view them as at any time they could turn on us because that's reality, right? And then the moment you notice something suspicious about them, you had better start looking at them through the eye of they're going to get you killed, right? So we have to accept this, right? We know that these things exist. I mean, there's scores of politicians in prison for being pedophiles, right? These are just the ones that have been given up, right? We know that Congress has a secret slush fund that they pay off sexual abuse allegations, right?
Yeah.
We're not allowed to be told who they were. We're not allowed to be told who the congressmen were. And yet our money, right, which again is fake that they generate out of it just to keep us enslaved, right? Because we don't have money printing machines. They do, right? They take our money from us and make us pay for their bad behavior and then slap us in the face and tell us that we're hitting ourselves, okay? All of this gaslighting is covering up what we all know, right? None of this stuff makes sense. I mean, people that have principles and beliefs don't 180 all day long. And 180, 180, 180, 180, 180, 180, right? You don't hate Lindsey Graham one day and then love him the next day, right? It's professional wrestling, right? We are watching the revealing that, I mean, because when I was a kid, I thought wrestling was real, right? Dusty Rhodes and Ric Flair and Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant, right? I thought as a kid that these people were actually fighting and these are the good guys and these are the bad guys. But then they revealed, because I grow up and then I'm like, wait a minute, human body can't tolerate that, right? And then remember, they used to actually defend wrestling as if it was real, right? But at some point in time in our lifetime, right, it became acceptable that wrestling was fake, right? And it got bigger. In fact, there's more professional wrestling now than there was when we were kids. When we were told it was real, and if you were to tell a wrestler that I know it's fake, they would get upset and huffy and puffy. Well, now we've just been slowly told that, yeah, it is fake, but look how fake it is. In fact, that's part of the entertainment now is how fake it is. Well, guess what? That's politics, right? That is the system,
Hypernormalization.
the matrix in which we live in is nothing but professional wrestling to keep us entertained, to keep us in this two-party duopoly, right? The tyranny of only two choices, right? So that if you ever call any of them out on their evil, well, they can say to you, well, what, would you rather have Biden, right? Or if someone calls Biden out for touching kids as a Democrat, they say, well, what, would you rather have Trump, right? And this is the facade that we're all operating under. And, you know, we have got to wake up to the world that we live in. And what really frustrates me the most is that so many of these people that deny the evil of the world in which we in are Christians, right? And they'll tell you that they've read the book and they know that the good guys win, right? But I've also read the book, and at the end of the book, things get worse. They don't get better, right? I mean, that, like, there's no man that comes along in the Christian narrative of this story, right? Right? That everyone, proclaims that they know, and that's why they don't worry about things, right? There's also nothing in that book that says, hey, just sit back and enjoy the show, right? I mean, so, and that's all of these faith traditions, right? I mean, none of these faith traditions say, well, there's evil in the world, but don't worry, at the end, you're all going to win, so don't do anything to change it or anything like that. So it doesn't matter your religious faith. There's right and there's wrong, okay? And right and wrong, look, there's cultures, including, if you read Genesis chapter 30, the 12 tribes of Israel were founded out of multiple maid servants and multiple wives, right? I mean, Islam today still practices multiple, right? So the applying of moral values to people that you, as time goes on, I mean, look, Alexander Hamilton was a womanizer, Benjamin Franklin was, John F. Kennedy, I mean, Bill Clinton, I mean, all of them likely, right? And yet we somehow selectively forget that and only remember the good things. But then we want to throw, like, look, General Petraeus, right? He was caught not only having an affair, right, but giving classified materials to his mistress. And where do we do to him? We promote him to the CIA director, right? So this selective outrage, this failure to just wrap our mind around the evil of the world and then throwing people under the bus for way less stuff. Look, people would throw their husband or wife out on the street if they lied to them as much as the politicians for which we go to rallies, give money to, and buy their t-shirts, right? And so this cognitive disconnect, right, with this fake worldwide world of wrestling entertainment, structure that we're fed on a daily basis, hopefully this is the beginning of it being torn down. Because, see, Hulk Hogan was good until he was bad, right? And it's not lost to me the irony that when Hulk Hogan, painted his beard black and wore a different do-rag, that the bad guy team that he joined was called the New World Order, right? I mean, it is art imitating life, imitating art, right? I mean, ladies and gentlemen, what you're seeing around you is all completely fake, and everything that they tell you is a lie.
It's the Frank Zappa quote that I pulled up. The illusion of freedom will continue as long as it's profitable to continue the illusion. At the point where the illusion becomes too expensive to maintain, they will simply take down the scenery, they will pull back the curtains, they will move the tables and chairs out of the way, and you will see the brick wall at the back of the theater. It's either coming down or they're reaching total control. And what you said about good guys win in the end, no, God does win, but God also didn't give you free will as an accident. Your efforts here, this is not a passive thing that you just watch where you go, kind of like the movie, kind of don't. You're involved. The single most powerful thing God gave you was free will. It is not. Your efforts are what matter. If you truly give it your all and you die in the process, you didn't fail. I think you succeeded in the eyes of God. To simply say the good guys win, and even so, even what you're saying about like drug cartels, and I'm thinking like Mujahideen, and I look at something like that and I go, okay, we funded the Mujahideen, and it's like, they became the Taliban, and we're just accepting that, that's what the story is. But let's just say it is. I would go, probably not good to give them weapons. But what was if we're just accepting all of history for what it is, and we will for this example, let's just say it is.
That's a far stretch. That's a far stretch, Tommy. But I'll play.
I know, but for the example, you look at it and you go, Soviet Union, equally armed, and they can rain thermonuclear warheads, each 1,000 times larger than the one on Hiroshima, from orbit. Or we're gonna, give some goat herders who, they're terrorists. We're gonna give them some Stinger missiles to get them pulled into a 10-year war. Okay, and if we don't do that, well, it's either thermonuclear Armageddon, or we can go toe to toe with the Soviets and not go thermonuclear, but then we're get conventional forces. You look at it and you go, and this is me giving a lot of leash, going, okay, maybe if you ran the simulation 100 times, maybe the least damaging thing was to try to stop via domino theory Korea and Vietnam. Maybe it was to fund the Mujahideen. Okay, maybe it actually is less damaging to let the cartels exist, because that way they all form their own nuclei where you know where they all are, as opposed to just, breaking the hornet's nest and then they're everywhere. Okay. Big pick. Okay. All those things, even drug trade. Okay. Again, because that comes to me as like, you're an adult. You go and buy some ecstasy on the street and has fentanyl. Like, I don't wish death on you. It's tragic, but you're also an adult, free will. All those things ideally wouldn't exist, but I get that they do, and that it's not, well, we just shouldn't have war. Gandhi wrote a lot. Was it Gandhi who wrote a lot of letters to Hitler? I think the comedian Duncan Trussell said, he's like, Gandhi was writing these flowery letters to Adolf Hitler and Hirohito, begging them to stop the war. He's like, and did those poems end the war? No. The white hot flash of a nuclear bomb did. Hey, man, it's what it is. There's what should happen and there's what will happen. It doesn't excuse it, but I understand it. I understand that it's not all perfect, and that shit happens, and that it's okay. It comes back to that and that alone of, where do you draw a line? Where do you draw a line? And if it's not, and so I would actually say I'm kind of pleasantly surprised. I have people all the time that comment, I didn't like this guy. He was a bit left-leaning. I'm like, can you actually like walk that out? So you don't want to hear something you disagree with. You only want to hear things you agree with, which means you're not learning anything. You just want to be told what you like. Hey, Jeremy, do you like the color blue? I do too, Tommy. Blue is good. Blue is good. What was the point of the conversation? We both accept blue is good. We didn't walk away with any new information. We that could have been a text. Do you like the color blue? Yeah, I like the color blue. It didn't have to be a conversation. The conversation is the point of throwing ideas back and forth, pushing back, and trying to learn. So when people say, I didn't like this person, she was a bit liberal, well, then don't watch the show. All of those. And so my point is like, I've become kind of disillusioned over 1,800 episodes, where I'm like, you really, people just don't want to hear anything they disagree with. I
That's
will
right.
say, I am pleasantly surprised at the amount of hardcore, who I thought were just full-on cultist MAGA people, who are saying, I can't let this slide.
Right.
I will admit that I'm surprised, and And it's good to see, because you have people, you don't have to be a genius, you don't have to have 500 IQ. It's okay if you just have a normal life, 9 to 5, wife and kids. It is surprisingly beautiful that there are a lot of people that are like kids, and I'm pleasantly surprised. I'm horrified and disgusted at the people who say, "Drop it, it's done." But I'll be honest, I thought that was going to be like 95% of people.
Right.
Even on Truth Social, I went to Truth Social and looked at it, because that's full on Trump. Forget Twitter.
Right.
The amount of people who are pushing back on that. Do you know what ratioing is? Ratioing is when you get more comments than likes, which normally only, if you say, "Hey, great day today," you'll get 5 likes. Make it some people that say you're a faggot, but still, more people are going to like it than not. Ratio is when you really say something where it's like, is pedophilia that bad? You might get 100 likes from pedophiles, but then you're going to get 10,000 comments. The only time Trump has ever been ratioed on Truth Social is the other day. It's the thing you sent me when he said, like, my former supporters.
Yeah.
On his own app. An app that is the Donald Trump fan club. He got ratioed.
It can't be spun any other way, right?
He got ratioed by people with profile pictures of Trump and an eagle and going like, "Mr. President, this is not." I mean, some cases they're like, "Why are you doing this?" Other ones are just straight up like, "You're a pedophile." I like to see that. Now, I don't know where this goes, and I don't have any illusions about it. It all just works out. It could be the end of the world, but.
Well, look, like I said, our job as citizens should not be to try to solve the crime to enough detail to be able to write a book about it, right?
You can if you want, but that's not your job.
Is merely to question those that are doing this. Why? Why are you doing this? Why are you saying this, right? Because see, this is what we should be involved. And so this is what I sent to another very prominent, independent journalist, right? I said, Jen and I both see this as a great thing. People will never stand up for themselves as long as they falsely believe someone will do it for them, right? And so if this brings down the concept that, now this person that we elected, right, is in there, now America's going to turn around, now all these things are going to change. No, that's never been the case, right? A politician has never solved a damn thing, right? We've elected people every single election since we started having elections, and it has never gotten better. It only gets worse. It's like looking at a stock chart, right? It might go, it's getting worse. It might get a little, but then it still keeps, the overall trend is worse, right? And so if this breaks people out of this cult of personality, first of all, Tommy, I'm going to ask you a very, very dangerous question. And that is, do you believe that we have free and fair elections?
No.
Okay. So if you don't believe that, how can you ever believe that the good guys won?
Correct.
I mean, how can we say that these demonic psychopaths rule the world and yet also say that our elections are rigged and then also say that a good guy won? All right. These things cannot be in the same sphere of knowledge, right? It's impossible. See, because those who control the world, if they're rigging the elections, would not allow a good person to win. The only person that would ever win that would appear to be good is someone that they know can never be truly good. Okay. And this is just the reality of it. Okay. And if we don't accept that, well, then we're going to be reduced to 500 million people, right? I mean, this is their plan. Right? I mean, so this is actually a great thing if it leads to people taking their power back, like in the V for Vendetta, right? If this results in the V for Vendetta moment where we all march against the powers to be, right? We don't even need arms. Like I've said this a million times in interviews throughout the years. we have numbers that we don't even need guns. We could just stomp their guts out with our bare feet because that is how much more we have in numbers over them, right? And this is why they control information. This is why they lie to us constantly. It's why they gaslight us. It's why they herd us into the tyranny of two choices, right? Because they control both choices, right? But we can't automatically believe all these things that are known and proven over the years and then believe that somehow some magical thing happened where one person slipped through the cracks, right? Even though he hires all the bad people, right? Like this administration is made up of media personalities and former members of Congress, either the Senate or the House, right? Well, we never believed and trusted congressmen before, but all of a sudden they've been selected to be in the administration and we think that they're great conservatives. I'm here to tell you 100% that I have given my story and all the evidence that I have in my case to all of the conservative Republicans that are the good guys, right? And they have completely ignored it. In fact, I will give the maximum amount of campaign cash to any congressman that will sit down and look at my case and then do something about it, right? But they won't. Why? Because they're in on the game, right? This is why they ignore us. This is why they pick and choose things that they will do for us so that we can say but he did this one thing good, but he did this one thing. Yeah, but if the thing that he's not doing good is way worse than the good things that he is doing, well, then that ultimately means that it's bad. So this could end up being a good thing. I hope people continue to question. And look, the question now is who can I trust, right? Because your favorite conservative ink person is now basically backpedaling on a unicycle to an airplane that they're building in flight in reverse, right? I mean, the falling all over themselves with what truly are conspiracy theories, right? I mean, I've heard everything from, well, Trump is actually running a reverse blackmail. He's taking control of the deep state. And okay, that's not true, right? I mean, let's just hone in on January 6th in general, right? I mean, there's no accountability, right? There's not going to be any accountability, right? These were hostages, right? Okay, well, then why didn't you pardon them? Why did you just commute these 14 people's sentences, right? But the bigger question is, why did these 14 people not fight their case? See, I am completely exonerated, right? My case was overturned and dismissed. Why? Because I was fighting my case. I had an open appeal, right? And I was arrested way later than most of these people, right? And still had, months before any resolution of my appeal was going to happen. And as long as I had an open appeal, my case was open, which means when the pardon proclamation was issued, I fell into the third tier, the tier that said any open cases are to be overturned and dismissed. And so now I'm as free and clear as I can. In fact, I'm actually erased in some aspects, right? But why did all of the main players not have open appeals? I mean, we heard about all of the things that happened in their cases and in their trials. You know what it takes to have an open appeal? Simply filing a notice of appeal. And then you wait on the court to grant you a brief, right? And then you brief. It takes years, unless you're in the infotainment hierarchy where apparently something could happen to Trump today and the Supreme Court rules on it next week. The rest of it is going to take years, if not decades, to get resolution from the Supreme Court, right? But that's all it would have required for every J6er to be free and clear. And yet we have hundreds, if not thousands of felons walking the street that have lost their rights. And we're expected to believe that, well, January 6th is all over with now, right? Trump saved us. In fact, something that wrenched me to death was seeing a video put together of all these people thanking President Trump for a pardon. Do you know a pardon is an admission of guilt, right? So all of these people were accused of being domestic terrorists. They were accused of engaging in illegal activities of which they did not engage in. They were set up to be that way, and they're thankful because they're let out of their cage, right? I mean, how far have we fallen intellectually when we see that as a good thing, right? I do not see it as a good thing. I spent 1,245 days of my life behind bars because I caught these sons of bitches doing exactly what they said. And you want to know what? All the good guys, they ignore me, right? And I would love to start naming names right now, but I'm still investigating because when I name names, I want to be able to show you this is what I found, right? But all the people that claim that they're good guys, they don't want to talk to me. They'll talk to all kinds of other J6ers and they'll focus on how bad jail is. Yeah, jail's bad. Don't go there. All right. That's not the story here. The story is Americans were set up in a military operation of which many of the people that we think are heroes were actually involved in. How come that's not being addressed? Right? And so, guess what? If everyone says, hey, you know, this Jeffrey Epstein makes everybody look pretty bad here, and then they start looking at these other things like January 6th, COVID, right? The 2008 financial collapse, the Oklahoma City bombing, 9/11, the Gulf of Tonkin again, right? I mean, my God, where could it end? This is why we have to stop talking about it now, or else you're a horrible, horrible, bad person. Shame on you. I'm this, and you should support me. And if you don't support me, then you're a bad person. I mean, I honestly, Tommy, I think this is a good thing if people stay on this path.
We'll wrap it up with this, but I like, because what I had been thinking was what I had said earlier about this is a way to fracture the base, and that's what I'd do if I had the blackmail. If we stay, yeah, Ben Franklin, Republic, if you can keep it. If you stay on it, that is a way to get a lot of people, present company included, to start being a lot more critical of, instead of like, Trump won, the good guys are in. The effect of this is not trusting anyone, which might ultimately be a good thing. Now, I don't think that there's someone pulling the strings for this. I think if anything, it's God's hand. But that it can be a good thing. It can be a good thing to just no, nobody gets carte blanche. And I think it can be. I think that's a brilliant observation.
Well,
yeah.
I know you want to wrap this up, so let me leave people with this. Now that people apparently are opening their eyes to things, right? So I'm going to say to you what I've said since the very beginning, right? My background is in special operations, 20 years in special operations, 3 years with the Ranger Regiment, and 17 years as a Green Beret, where my last duty assignment was as a non-commissioned officer in charge of the Special Activities Branch, right? I have the NCOERs to show you that I was responsible for the policy oversight of covert, clandestine, and compartmentalized operations, which is what all of these are, right? I want your people now. I will send you these PDFs, and then if you could link them so people can easily reference them, because unfortunately, while we easily believe a lot of things, we don't want to do anything like just type into DuckDuckGo the title of something and actually read it, right? So I want to make it as easy as possible, right? I've got 2 military documents here, right? Both published by the United States Army Special Operations Command. One is the U.S. Army Special Operations Command's Unconventional Warfare Pocket Guide, okay? You can get this on Google. It's not a secret. It's unclassified document, right? And if you turn in the PDF version to page 9, or it's on the PDF, if you're looking at PDF, it's at page 11, but if it's paper, it's page 9. There is a diagram here, which is titled,
yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, the activities of an insurgency or resistance movement. Read it, folks, and you will read the last 100 years of American history to include what we're going through right now. This is a military document. This unconventional warfare pocket guide is unclassified, but yet in the reference part, it has 9 secret no foreign references, meaning this is just the unclassed version. This is what you're allowed to know that we do, right? But secret no foreign means that even our allies don't know this, right? This is the type of warfare that is being used. It's you could call it fifth generational. All of that is just the changing of the names of things so people can write things on their evaluations and get credit for it for their next promotion. But this is a new revision of a manual used to train special forces soldiers, right? It is the United States Army Special Operations Command reference manual for resistance movements, right? Notice it's, this is a bad printout, but the fist is red, typical communist symbol, right? Now, in special forces training, we train using narratives, right? We create a mythical country because we don't ever want to say the actual real countries because they're like, oh, we're planning to attack whatever, right? But the narratives are as close to realism as we can, right? If you get this document, this manual, which John Hopkins helped to prepare, I just might want to add, right? And go to the narrative, right? You will read this narrative for which United States Army Special Forces are being prepared as we speak right now. They're being put in the mindset that these are the bad guys. I'm not going to spoiler alert you, right? Read it. Read the narrative, but before you read the narrative, ask yourself, who do these narratives sound like, right? Because they create fake names, right? So don't worry about the names, don't worry about this, but read the narrative and say, who do these sound like, okay? And then when you read the decision to engage in unconventional warfare, you might be surprised at which side our Green Berets are being trained to support. Okay? These are actual military documents. Folks, what you're seeing in America and around the world is a military operation, not against army versus army, but against armies versus you. Okay? In that unconventional warfare guide, during the Obama administration, the definition of unconventional warfare was entered as part of the National Defense Authorization Act of 2016 into public law. Let me read that definition to you. All right. Joint doctrine defines unconventional warfare as activities conducted to enable a resistance movement or insurgency to coerce, disrupt, or overthrow a government or occupying power by operating through or with an underground, auxiliary, or guerrilla force in a denied area. Now, that definition has been around for decades, folks. Why in 2016 was it seen fit to be added to public law by the 114th Congress as part of the National Defense Authorization Act? The reason is because you are the guerrilla that they want to destroy. And they're all in on it, which is why when people like me come out and expose it and the FBI whistleblowers come out and expose it, guess what? They get destroyed, they get ignored. But the ones that don't get ignored, you might want to ask why, right? And if we just ask the simple question why, we don't even have to expand upon the answer. We can just ask the bad guys, why are you doing this, right? Because in interrogation, we have a rule. If I ask the question, I already know the answer, right? They need to know that if we're asking questions, we already know the answer. And we need to stand up for what's right and stop taking this bullshit from these liars.
Yeah, brother, and it's good to have you on the show face to face. So that's a
Well, it's good.
it's a step
Good
up.
to be here.
It's a step up. It's a you know what? I know the graph is everything gets worse, but I'd say, in our immediate circle, it's gotten a little bit better. And that's not from a politician though. That's from the
Well,
big
you
guy
eat
above.
an elephant one bite at a time, my friend.
Correct. And I would,
Or a donkey,
or
depending
whatever,
on what
yeah,
part
or
you're
whatever
in.
you want. Yeah, and I just keep faith in the big man. And, doesn't mean it's going to be easy, doesn't mean you're going to physically survive. You won't. But I really do believe that you just keep your eye on God, do what you know is right, and you will win in the eternal long game. Not on earth, not saying any of that, but that's what I would say is know what's right, and I think that's what we both kind of conclude is, and plant your feet there. Send me those links to the PDFs, and I'll put them in the description. I will send you
Absolutely.
this link when it's up. I think it should be tomorrow, and if not, it'll be Monday, just because it's always a 1 day delay. So Friday shows go to Monday. Yeah, and other than that, man, love to have you back on again sometime, and I appreciate the
Anytime, my friend.
discussion,
Anytime.
and I'm sitting up straight at the end for your mother, and it's
I'll tell my mom.
hey, my mom watches every episode too, and trust me, you sit up straight, don't do this, don't do that. I'm like, all right,
Well,
all right.
she should be proud
Ah,
because,
thank you.
like we talked about when we talked personally, right? Now I'm gonna give up your secret, right? Which I think you said you already told your people, right? When Tommy starts to make excuses
Oh
for
yeah.
why all of this is happening, we know that you've been bought off.
I
You
was gonna
know that
say that
he's
earlier. I was
taking
gonna
the
say that
money,
earlier.
right?
I used to say whenever I'd get successful, but I don't want to pigeonhole that because maybe I do get successful, being honest.
Yeah, you might get
But
successful, but
maybe I'll have
good things do
a
happen.
nice car. So yeah, sure. If you ever start seeing me going, I don't know, Jeremy's a bit of a whack job. Unsubscribe from my show because I have either consciously turned on you or it's under duress. The only reason you should keep following me at that point is to learn the enemy by their actions. If I ever start poo-pooing this stuff, just understand that, guys. That is the canary. That is the blinking in Morse code.
Unfortunately, you will not have been the first person to be threatened or paid off to not
I'm
not
aware.
pay attention to me.
I'm not kidding when I say that, by the way. If one day this show is huge and you see me, maybe I haven't consciously turned. Maybe they've got a gun to my entire family's head. But if you guys start to see me stop doing things, I mean that legitimately. Understand. That's why I say it all the time. Understand that I've been turned.
Well, look, if you lead an uncompromisable life, you won't have to worry about being blackmailed. And that doesn't even necessarily mean live a good life, right? But if you don't give what people think about what you do in your life, well, then you can't be blackmailed and you can't be compromised. So don't put things up on pedestals that can be held over your head. Don't do things that you wouldn't want people to know about. And if it does come out, just simply say, you got me. All right.
Yeah, fucked
Don't
up.
make up lies and say it never happened when we know it happened. Right. I mean,
up. I was a piece of shit. I did
insanity.
Yeah,
it's insanity.
Yeah, no, it's on. And I'll say, I guess one thing that kind of helps me is, I always imagine it's like the local police came and arrested you, and they're corrupt. And let's say you knew that Delta Force was coming to get you. They had your back for whatever reason in this scenario. You're an asset. You're their buddy. You'd be like, man, these cops have me. Yeah, I'm outnumbered. 10-1. They have guns. I'm handcuffed. But if I knew Dale and the Delta Force guys were coming, I'd be like, they're gonna come here and wipe this out. That's how I look at relationship with God. I do not mean to downplay the fear-inducing power of the military-industrial intelligence complex. It's they'll 9 ways from yesterday. But I know that there's an authority above that, and that is what you need to do. It doesn't mean it's not scary. It's terrifying, but place your faith in God and plant your feet, and that's how it's going to play out. So,
well, nobody gets out of life alive, so you shouldn't think you're going to be the first.
Yep.
So there's worse things than dying.
Oh yeah, there are. Yeah, there are.
So.
But for right now, Jeremy, good to see you, dude. We'll wrap this shit up.
All right, Tommy.
And we'll do another one. And yeah, man, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man, and be good.
All right, brother. You as well. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Take
Recording
care.
stopped.
God bless. Peace.